Hello and welcome to Gotham Sound TV. My name's Peter Schneider. I am here with Andy Munitz from Sony Professional Audio. Andy?
Hey there, how are you?
All right, let's get into it. So two tiers. Let's start with the first tier, which is, it's not quite fair to say it's an analog system. Help me understand it.
It's called UWP-D, UHF wireless package. We started with packaged wireless, 12, 13 years ago with our first generation of UWP. And we have enhanced its functionality and made it more robust physically and things like that, and better displays and menus. And we are now on our third generation, which is called UWP-D. And the D stands for digital signal processing. So as probably most people are aware, analog wireless uses a companding scheme. And it's that companding scheme that can, kind of give you less than optimal performance. So by now handling that companding scheme in the digital domain, we can be extremely accurate about it. We can take out the kind of variances in component quality that might normally go into that, and we can have real mirror images in the transmitter versus the receiver, and with the goal of making analog wireless sound very good, and trying to hold on to as much of the transient response of your signal as possible, and not have a compander scheme kind of mush out the sharp transients, if you will. So that's one of the overall benefits of UWP-D.
So what are some of the components within UWP-D?
Sure. So within UWP-D, we actually, again, sell it as a packet system. If you want to maybe do the overhead here, we could just have a peek at these. So we have our body pack transmitter here. It's a UTX, T for transmitter, B for body pack, 03 for third generation. And a simple package comes then with a portable receiver, the URX, R for receiver, P for portable, 03 for third generation. And this package comes with a complete set, everything that you really need, including a lavalier microphone and the various connection cables and belt clips and everything.
Let's take a look at, so it's a stereo mini is the input on the transmitter?
On this guy, yes. But as a matter of fact, we offer a different model, which is called the UTX B03, just like this one, but it says HR on it, and that stands for Hiroshi connector. So you do have your choice of, of the locking mini or of a 4-pin Hiroshi connector for maybe a more substantial connector that might hold up to a little bit more abuse and strain relief and things like that.
Sure. And just a word about the locking connector. It looks exactly like the connector you might find on a Sennheiser G3 or G2 series, but is not pin compatible.
Exactly, wired a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And obviously having, we make various lavaliers in Sony land, so we offer many of these in both connector configurations as well. But a lav does come included in what's called our UWP-D 11 package, which is those two guys there. We also offer a UWP-D 16 package, which adds to that kit a portable plug-on transmitter, and that is right there. And that guy is obviously interesting and can be used for a lot of different applications, from pure broadcast to whatever boom pole situations. But it also offers 48-volt phantom power.
I was just going to say, it really could be used on a boom pole because it does offer full 48.
Exactly.
And price-wise, per channel, it's about $500 to $700 per channel in this range.
Exactly.
Obviously for all of this stuff, email, call, go online on our website, and we'll put together exact packages. And I also want to mention, your transmitter will work with any manufacturer's lav, just like other wireless.
Yeah, it's just you make sure you have the right connectivity.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that alone doesn't really tell the story, if I could. One of the important things, perhaps one of the most important things about any wireless system, is reliability of signal. And to that degree, most people are familiar with the concept of diversity reception. Many people might not be aware that there's different ways of designing that diversity reception. The way we use it is, the way we design it in this situation, is that there are two independent tuners inside of this receiver unit. They're both tuned to the transmitter frequency. And then the two tuners each have their own antenna. And then there is a little, what's called a comparator circuit, looking between those two receiver antenna combos, saying at that instant which one of you two is better. And it will do an audio switch back and forth, so you're always on the cleanest. There are other methods which are called antenna-only diversity, where you may have a single tuner, but double tuners, and the switch happens between the antenna signal. We don't think it is as potentially as robust. And then there's called adaptive diversity, where you have a single tuner and a single receiver antenna, and then maybe the audio cable that feeds into the camera is asked to also act like a second antenna, but obviously a different looking antenna than your main antenna. All of these have a goal of fitting into a very small portable package and maintaining great battery life, good 8 hours out of a pair of AA batteries. It's hard to do that, but we have been able to do that. And so we try to offer here the highest quality form or design of diversity circuitry to make sure that you don't get dropouts and also keep the battery life going. Beyond that, yes?
Well, I was going to say, let's talk about frequency band splits.
Sure.
And maybe we can get into a little bit of operational stuff like scanning for free frequency.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, what are the frequency band splits?
So what we try to do at Sony is offer as few packages as possible, but that means each package needs to have the widest possible bandwidth coverage. So if you realize that we're living in a world of unused UHF TV channels, white spaces, from TV channel 14 up to 51, what we do is we split that roughly into thirds. So we have a 14 block that goes from 14 to 25. That is 12 UHF TV channels covering 72 megahertz. And then we have a 30 block, and that goes from 30 up to 41. And then we have a 42 version, which goes from 42 to 51. Functionally, they're all identical. It's really just the bandwidth that we cover. So in the 14 block, which is again 14 to 25, we have the ability to even have these things scan and broadcast down to 25 kilohertz spacing. So this pair can tune in up to 2,772 different frequencies. And that's, important, certainly where there may be a frequency coordinator on site and says, you have to get to this certain frequency I'm assigning you.
Yeah, no, for us it was a dream to be able to have that sort of wide split of frequencies. Yeah, that the ability to go into that fine of a tuning mode was absolutely great, combined with the band split. It's a huge band split.
And we cover this same kind of frequency split or division, if you will, across not only the analog with DSP wireless system that we're talking about now, the UWP-D, but also in our complete digital wireless package, the DWX series that we'll be talking about in a few minutes.
Right.
But it's the exact same thing, and they're all compatible in the same place in the same time with various groups and things like that.
Fantastic. All right, so let's go ahead and let's do. I get to my location. I'm a typical sound person, camera person. Camera person made to do sound people's work. I need to scan for a free frequency.
Exactly. Let's do the above thing. If we notice that there we go. If you notice that there's an infrared port there and there's an infrared port there, and they kind of face each other, as long as they're within a couple of feet of each other, we're simply going to tell the receiver, which looks at the outside world, go and find me the quietest frequency. And you may be able to notice here, let me just there we go, that both of these have a set button on the left and a plus or minus or up-down button on the right. Same thing for the transmitter. So the up-down button scrolls through various menus, and the top menu is this home, that gives you your grouping number, your TV channel 34, and 04 out of nominally 47 different frequencies that happen there, plus your frequency number, plus your RF strength for both your A and B tuner. Let's see if that is. Anyway, but the idea is if we go now down two menus, 1, 2, to the auto set button, appropriately named. And we hold down the set button till it flashes the word yes, and we hit it again to select yes. It is now going to scan 188 frequencies in about 12 seconds and actually show you the background noise that it found. And on the transmitter, it wakes it up via infrared, and you just change that to say yes, and you hit the set button. And now we got full bars, and we're set. And they're both set to the same thing. And if you notice over here on the A and B at the top of those things, as I move the transmitter around, it will switch back and forth from A to B, which is a good thing because it's saying I'm now looking at the A tuner, I'm now looking at the B tuner, and the diversity circuitry is working. So that's as simple as it is to find open and the best frequencies. You can obviously set in groups that if you have multi-system operation and you want to know that you've got as low intermod distortion between various systems, that's all built into the system, into the chip, so you don't have to worry about, my dog ate my homework and I left the manual at the shop.
That's great. And I should also add that you have a bunch of training videos online, which we'll link to from this video to your training videos. I just wanted folks to get a sense of how simple it was to operate.
Good.
We should talk about the other receivers in this line.
Sure.
Yeah, I think moving up in this form factor is the dual receiver.
Ooh, this is a biggie.
Yeah.
This is big news for us. I've been with Sony since 1984, and with our wireless, I've been going, when are we going to have a small camera mount portable wireless receiver that's dual channel? And they go, not yet, not yet, not yet. And finally, the circuitry and the manufacturability is here. And we've just introduced about 2 months ago this new little portable 2-channel receiver. It is barely bigger and thicker than here, maybe down here. You can see it is not much thicker than the single-channel version. It does have some very unique capabilities. The most important thing, obviously, is it can look at channel 1, and it can tune in channel 1. It has channel 2, and you can control and go through all the menus for channel 2. And it has something we'll get to in a minute, and then it has an overview that allows you to look at both channel 1 and channel 2 at a glance and look at the battery life and the RF level and the audio level. That said, there are, again, some very unique things. So if I go to just look at channel 1 and I go down in the menu, at the bottom of this menu is something called assign output. In other words, if you have a wireless channel coming into channel 1 and you've got a 2-channel output that may feed into a mixer, into a camera, whatever, must wireless channel 1 only go out channel 1? No, this menu allows you to say, I want it to go out channel 1, I want it to go out channel 2, or I want it to go out both simultaneously. And for people in TV land, if you're watching your TV and you got a pair of speakers, this sort of puts the voice down the middle and matches it up with your video.
I also imagine this to be used with a lot of so-called one-man band type shooting.
Right.
And where they don't necessarily want to have to manipulate cables, they just want to send one channel to both outputs, and then when they get into a situation where they have 2 wireless or an on-camera mic, they can easily switch it and manipulate it at the menu.
Exactly. And obviously the same thing for channel 2. You can, using the onboard mixer, route it out either side. But here's where we get into something unexpected. If you look at the top panel of this, we obviously have our main outputs here, and the receiver comes with a pair of mini to XLR connectors. It also comes with a pair of minis, a sort of a Y cable going from dual minis down to one stereo mini for those DSLR type applications. We have a headphone jack, so you can, with a headphone level, so you can always monitor here versus through a mixer, through a camera, whatever. If you want to make sure that signal is clear and strong between the transmitters and the receivers, you can listen right here and say, that if I'm hearing something, that's clean, that's not the problem. It may be further down the line. But look at this guy here. It says, let me see, mic input. that is a weird place to have a microphone input. And it is a weird place, but it does a really cool thing. It allows you to mix in additional wired microphone sources right at the receiver position. It may be on a camera, it may be wherever. What might be an application? Well, if you're a cameraman, for example, and you're not only the producer and the director and the cameraman, you may also be the interviewer. But generally, if you're behind the camera, your audio sort of gets captured off mic and it's not that usable or that good. I mean, people can hear you, it's just, it sounds wrong. Now you can hook up a lavalier microphone directly into here, and from behind the camera, you can be recorded in full fidelity. So that can go live broadcast to air, or it can get used in full post-production. Sorry, I was touching the mic. But that's an interesting application there. However, this little microphone input happens to also be a stereo input. A stereo input would allow us to take something like this little stereo, we can go back to the overhead, this little stereo plug-in power mic that we used to supply years ago with our mini disc recorders, but it's still available in the Sony line, but there are other manufacturers, and that allows us to now capture stereo ambience right at the receiver, and through the menu that says external mic select, we turn it on obviously, but you can adjust the input level of that stereo plus or minus 12 dB to just be there and support the two, maybe up to 2 wireless channels. So that means you can now capture stereo ambience plus talent. And a simple, obvious application would be you're at a sporting event, and I'm here and we're here live at the game, but instead of the person at home just hearing that in mono, they're hearing the crowd of 80,000 people in the stands. Or live breaking news where you have fire trucks whipping back and forth. Or you're a church wedding videographer. And now, in addition to the bride or the groom having a lav to capture the wedding vows, back at the camera, you can capture the sound, the reverberant sound of the organ inside the church in stereo.
Now, can you assign that mic input to either of the outputs?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, great.
So that can go either to output 1, output 2, or to both, hard, left, and right.
Fantastic.
Right, plus level, obviously, yes.
Yeah. And is there any compromise compared to the single channel receiver in terms of the RF reception? Is it still?
I would say yes. And in this guy, obviously we're packing 2 complete tuner sections, each with their own antenna for true double tuner diversity. In this receiver, when you do have individual, here we go back down here, we do have individual power switches for channel 1 and channel 2, so that if you're only using it as a single channel receiver, you're not wasting battery life on a second power, second circuit. And if you only power on one receiver, you've got true double tuner diversity. Both tuners are assigned there. If you do put on the second one, now it's antenna diversity for each channel. So that's the way it is to be.
Fair enough, yeah.
Right. But look at the size we've managed to have with a pair of AA batteries. And so that's kind of cool.
And before we move on to the slot receivers, because you guys make a slot receiver in this hybrid digital series as well, there are some hot shoe mounts that I think are interesting.
So first of all, we didn't really mention, but this is all metal construction. It's solid. It's got a great fit and finish. It's nice to hold them and go, yeah, I like that. It's feels good, and a nice display, and it's all backlit and so on and so forth. But traditionally, people will hook up the receivers with an analog mini jack to XLR connector. Sony being both a camera manufacturer as well as an audio manufacturer, the two engineering groups obviously can talk to each other, and they developed something called the multi-interface shoe, or MI shoe. Cameras generally have a shoe on top for just cold shoeing something on or whatever. But over the last couple of years, we've been introducing on all of our new models this MI, or multi-interface shoe. And it exists on our camera line, starting at our Alpha DSLR series, all the way up to our professional DI cameras, which is our pro camcorders, but right stopping at the full shoulder cam with with a slot and receiver. However, what that means is that if you have this receiver, let's actually go to the overshot. And in addition to the micro USB jack that all of these components have, that, by the way, is for once in a blue moon blowing in new firmware, but also you can put in nickel metal hydride batteries into these guys and just hook up your cell phone charger to this and just charge up those batteries with that jack.
A very convenient feature for the market that this is meant for.
Exactly.
Really nice, really nice.
But there's also this multi-pin connector, and that is the multi-interface or MI-SHU connector. Now, that wouldn't so easily interface with the same shoe on a camera. So we offer this little sled. It's, all of $60, $70 or whatever. And it's got the jack right there. So you take the receiver, you slide it on, you click it in, you tighten down the knob so the little pins don't wiggle. And now this connector here slides right onto your camera, so to speak. It's right under the hot shoe of the camera.
So if you're using a Sony camera, any of the models that we touched on,
Exactly.
both audio
Yes.
and power.
Yes. So audio goes down through the shoe directly into the camera, and at which point, either on a menu or on a hard switch on the side of the camera, you say, I want that to be assigned to channel 1 or channel 2 or 3 or 4 as it may be, depending on how many channels of audio are in the camera. But additionally, power can come from the camera's battery up and power the wireless receiver. So you don't need the batteries in the little battery connector. And believe it or not, that lightens this thing up a lot. And through a whole day of hand holding a camcorder, ergonomically, that makes the camera less front heavy. So that's kind of a unique capability. Now, we also, as we talked about, have the new dual channel receiver, and there is specifically a new dual channel MI-SHU adapter. And these shoes have a funny name, a model name. They're called SMAD-P3 or a P3D. So if you're looking for one of those shoes and you're getting the receiver, make sure that you specifically get the 2-channel shoe and a single-channel shoe for the single-channel receiver.
And just out of curiosity, do you guys offer just a dumb shoe, or would you?
It does. Good question. In the package, when we supply, both of these or any of the packages, it does come with a cold shoe adapter with, the appropriate belt clips, springs, and that's it. It's all there.
And for those users that are using a more professional camera with the slot-in style,
yes,
you in this line offer a slot-in receiver.
Exactly. At the same time, we kind of introduced the 2-channel portable receiver. We introduced a new 2-channel portable receiver.
And we'll talk about the case in a second.
There we go.
Yeah.
So this is now 2-channel. It's full double tuner diversity. Let's go to the top maybe. And so there's 4 tuner sections in here and a couple of comparator circuits, and they obviously share the pair of antennas through an antenna divider. And then we can slot this receiver directly into the back of any of our shoulder cams. The interesting thing there is, since this receiver is analog transmission with DSP processing, at a transmitter, we come in with the analog mic, go through a mic pre and then into an A to D converter. We then do our DSP-based companding. We go back through a D to A converter to make it back into analog. We use FM modulation. We transmit it to the receiver. At the receiver, we bring it in, and then we go through another A to D converter to bring it back into the digital domain, where we do the inverse, companding scheme in the digital domain. And on this guy, we will go back D to A again to go into a camera. In this guy, however, if it's slotted into one of our cameras, we bypass that last D to A conversion process and we go direct digitally right into the camera, becomes part of the video file in the camera. And so that's kind of interesting.
And it's a good opportunity right now to talk about the sleeve that you're in.
Yeah, so this is what's called a DWA-F01D. It is really a bucket. It's a name that rolls right off the tongue, I know. But it's a digital wireless adapter, and it takes both our analog 2-channel receiver as well as our digital receiver, and it puts it into a bucket that is now battery operable. You get analog outputs, you get AES EBU output, you get word sync in if you want this to be word sync slave to an external source. You have a jack which can be set for mic or phone level. You have a variable pot. You can even bypass the onboard little L series batteries, and you can give it, nominally a 12-volt input, and or there's another input on this side, and it allows for if you just want to have, 2 channels out in the field and not do a whole thing. We even make a little leatherette case so you can hang it off your side and a strap and the whole thing.
Amazing. And there's 2 versions of that case, one with the battery and one...
And one without. And here I've got 2 of these cases bolted together with the little, adapter plate that comes with it. So you can sort of keep adding these buckets. And this bucket has the same kind of connectivity in terms of analog, little Hiroshi to analog breakouts, and they can be analog outputs, they can be AES outputs, you have word sync input, you can feed it with a 12-volt, supply, and Gotham was kind enough here to give us, or let us set up with some additional little accessories that might help in making a mixer bag out of this stuff.
Fantastic. So that brings us to the analog hybrid line,
Yes.
the UR and UT line.
Exactly.
It's a
It's
good
called the UWP-D series. Exactly.
UWP
Yes.
series. It's a good moment to talk about since you mentioned A to D and D to A stages.
Yes.
Do you know off the top of your head what the latencies are?
I don't have it in my brain.
All right,
I don't want to
we'll
make
have
it
that.
up.
We'll
Right.
have that specs.
Right, I have it on the digital stuff. I don't have it in the analog
Sure,
stuff,
sure.
but it's extremely low.
Good.
We care an awful lot about latency.
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Andy, thank you so much for
Hey,
coming.
thank you very much. Really appreciate it.